Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the June meeting of the West Glamorgan Archives Committee, and a particularly warm welcome to Ray Collier, who is representing Neath Mechanics Institute. Ray, it's good to have you on the committee, and I do hope you enjoy your time on us. And I can tell you that it is a very interesting committee, and I'm sure you will make a great contribution on behalf of the Institute. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chairman.
Gareth, do we have any apologies for absence?
Yes, a couple, Chair, from Councillor Wayne Carpenter, Reverend Justin Davis, Tracy McNulty and Chris Saunders.
Thank you very much. And are there any disclosures of personal or prejudicial interests, please? There appears to be none. Thank you. And before we carry on, may I just remind everybody that if you do have your mobile phones, can you ensure they are on silent? Thank you very much. The next item are the minutes of the last meeting, which were held on the 28th of March. I take it that you have all read them, and may I have your approval that they are a correct record of the minutes of the meeting? Thank you. Thank you. And a seconder? Thank you. Are there any matters arising which are not on the minutes, on the agenda? Being on page 1, page 2, page 3. Nothing. Thank you very much. And I hand over to the County Archivist to give his report.
Chair.
Oh, sorry.
Vice Chair.
Oh, sorry. Beg your pardon. Yes. Yes, election of Vice Chair for this municipal year. May I have nominations, please?
Can you put your mic on, sorry? People at home, can you?
Yeah, could I nominate Councillor Robert Smith? Without asking him, but I'm sure he can do it.
Can I have a second?
A second. And I thank the committee. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much for taking on the role. And we also need a Vice Chair representing Neath Port Talbot. So may I have a nomination for that position, please?
Nominate Ken Phillips, Chair.
Thank you very much. And may I have a seconder for that nomination?
I'll second that.
I second that.
No.
Thank you very much indeed. And all approved? And thank you very much indeed. And thank you to...
Thank you both, and thank you
Yeah.
to the committee.
And thank you very much, Councillor Phillips, for taking on the role on behalf of Neath Port Talbot Council. Thank you. Next item is number 5, the report of the County Archivist. Andrew.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everybody, and thank you all for coming. So starting off with the statistics, which is always very hard to say. It's another good news quarter with the statistics reasonably significantly up on the same quarter last year. And it's basically part of the ongoing story of a sort of slow rebound after the COVID pandemic. We still aren't up to the levels that we were at before COVID, but we're getting there bit by bit. And I think in another year or so, we'll be at that level. As you can see, both Swansea and Neath visits are up fairly significantly. Group visits are down, but that's group visits coming in. That's more than matched by off-site visits. Basically, some of the events we do are on-site, some of them are off-site. It just depends what the balance is in a particular quarter. Considerably more pupils reached by the education service in the last quarter, always good to see. And then we've gone up from 0 at special events to 60 at special events this time round, which is good, and more on that a little bit later. But the total numbers are significantly up, as you can see, by, I suppose, about 30% or thereabouts. The number of documents issued in Swansea is up, Neath is up. Even posts and emails are up by 4. I can't comment on the web stats. I find them baffling, I have to say. And I think that such a big jump down in use of the website is almost certainly because of a different way of counting the stats rather than anything else. But I don't have any information on why it should be so far down on what it was before. Moving on to the next item, I thought it'd be helpful to look at the last 2 financial years because, you know, doing things quarter by quarter, it's a bit too granular, not general enough. So I thought it'd be a handy thing to compare the financial year that's just gone with the one before it. And once again, in most cases, it's a strong uplift. There's a particularly big uplift in researchers visiting Neath, but that's largely because in 2023 to 24, up until December, we were only providing, well, we as in West Glamorgan Archive Service were only providing a service in Neath on Mondays, and that was doubled up to Mondays and Thursdays in the December. So that does account for a lot of the increase there. But an 18% increase in visitors coming to Swansea. Then the number of engagement events held has gone up by 37%. So we've been doing a lot more engagement events during the year. And I'd like it to be noted that we're doing that in the face of considerable changes to our staff. We've been short-staffed for much of the last year for various reasons, for recruitment lag and things like that. And also we're getting ready to move. So we're not sitting on our hands and saying, oh, we can't do anything because of moving. We're cracking on, we're doing our thing, and we're engaging as widely as we can. And it's something we intend to carry on doing. The documents issued in Swansea, that's considerably up. Some of my colleagues have been working very hard, running around, getting everything out for everybody. Once again, at a time when we're trying to get ready for moving, and it does take time aside to do that. Same for Neath, that's an even bigger increase, and it's all good. Post and email inquiries, not surprisingly, are down slightly as people are coming in more, so they're emailing us less. And it's to be expected. Are there any queries about figures?
Only to say really good news, really. Those figures look excellent and shows, you know, real engagement, and I think that's really important.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's positive that we're seeing these trends now, that there's people are re-engaging with the actual archives instead of doing things online, and I think it's a positive message.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I think also, as you mentioned, Andrew, these figures are going up, and under the circumstances of reduced staff and the move as well, all that extra work, your staff are to be applauded. So thank you, Andrew. I think that's really positive.
Thank
so,
you. Yeah.
I think, Chair, can I also put in a plug for my colleagues in the Antiquarian Society, because while we appreciate Andrew's staff and now with us 2 days a week, we have for well over the last year been running a fairly successful Facebook presentation with posts, I would say 5 days out of 7, which have all referenced people to come into the Mechanics Institute and the sort of help that they can have there. So it's been a sort of a dual approach, shall we say.
that's good news too, and it shows that all these different avenues of communication with the public actually do produce results, don't they? So that must be very rewarding for you to see that increase at the Institute. So many thanks to your staff for that, because it's a continuous process, isn't it? Posting every day. So well done.
It's a very important one, and it's borne out to some extent by the figures as well. The interesting thing to note is that while that the increase in document use is out of proportion with the increase in visitors. Basically, that means that people are engaging more with the collections, and it's a really important thing to do in Neath, and you are to be applauded for what you're doing at the moment. It's some very positive things that I'm seeing and hearing happening there at the moment. So thank you. Okay, should we move on?
Yeah.
So moving on a little bit to more information about the talks and seminars that we've done in this quarter. There haven't been as many sessions for schools this time round. It's Gendros and Wine Wen School. There's been one seminar for university students and a talk to the Mumbles History Group on researching the history of Mumbles in the archive service and the sort of sources that are available there. And we continue to host the monthly meeting of the Glamorgan Family History Society Swansea branch. It's a quiet little success story, that one. It started off with a small number of members, and it's grown. And now they're starting to organise their own talks during that session. So it's very good to carry on doing that and to encourage them, and just as they've encouraged us over the years in many ways. My colleague Emma Laycock has attended a coffee morning, an LGBTQ plus coffee morning organised by Sadie's Butterflies. That's a sort of organisation to provide support to members of the community. What she's been doing is to explain the work of the archive service, and the hope is that members of the community will interview each other about their experiences, and it'll enable them to tell their own story effectively, and that'll be recorded for posterity. There's been a lot of interest, but we're yet to see any solid outcomes in terms of recordings, but we continue to hope and to engage there. We also helped to staff a stall at Swansea Pride. It's the first time we've engaged directly with Swansea Pride, and we did this in collaboration with Swansea Museum, and it was good to do that. There's a lot of engagement there. And then last month we hosted the launch of a book by Dr. George Hook entitled The First World War Diaries of David Rees Thomas, 3rd Welsh Field Ambulance. Now the diaries that the book is based on were deposited with us, and it was a bit of a sign of the times, because there's a photograph of the books being handed over and where face coverings and all this sort of thing, and I'd completely forgotten about it when the incident when it came in, but that brought it back a bit. It shows how life has opened up a bit since then. But he's from New Zealand, and asked that because we hold the original books, the diaries, that we could help him launch the book, which we did. And it was a very pleasant morning. He came up to me at one stage and said, I think I'm related to most of these people, and including Dr. Gethin Matthews from Swansea University, who'd given him some help with it. They discovered they were third cousins and all this sort of thing. So it was a sort of pleasant occasion. And helping with book launches is something that we intend to carry on doing. It's as long as they're books that are in some sense related to the archive service and what the archive service does. This isn't a book that we published so much as one that's based on our holdings.
Any comments or observations on that section of Andrew's report? Well, I think it's good news. We like good news stories. So there's lots of good things happening there with the Family History Society, the engagement with the LGBT community. And as you say, it's slow to start with, but you've started, and that will come in due course. And the book and the first at Pride. So lots of good and positive engagement there. So excellent, Andrew. Thank you.
Thank you. There's been other engagement and joint working. There have been discussions at this meeting over a number of quarters regarding how we can work more proactively with Neath Talbot schools. And it was suggested that we ought to contact the two bodies, NASH, is that it? NAASH, which is the secondary school head teachers group, and also SAN, which is the corresponding primary school teachers group. So we've engaged 3 times with the secondary school group. First of all to the group as a whole, and then Emma's followed it up by 2 more meetings specifically with the history teachers. Interest has been slow, shall we say. We are starting to work with one of the schools to explore what can be done, and we're hoping that we can actually set up a session with them. We do appreciate that with secondary schools it's difficult because of timetabling, but we do offer sessions via Teams, which does make life a little bit easier for them if they can't actually come in person or have us round in person. Our attempts to engage with SAN, the primary school group, have been largely frustrated. They can't accommodate us in the current academic year, but we're going to try again in the next academic year and make jolly sure we do get to talk to them, because I do feel it, in theory at any rate, it is us leaning on an open door. I'm sure there's lots of things that we can provide for them which would be of use. We also, if you remember, had a meeting, a very productive meeting with Harriet Eaton. We're very aware that one of the reasons why we don't get Neath Talbot schools trying to engage with us is because Harriet provides a similar service herself. So what we did was to say, well, look, Harriet, if there's something that you need from us in terms of documentary sources, give us a call, we'll get it to you. We haven't had any calls, but the offer is very much there. Are there any questions? I thought we'd maybe break at that point from Neath Talbot members about this. Okay, thank you. We're continuing to assist with a project at Swansea University entitled Usable Past, Diversifying Humanities Teaching in Swansea Schools Through Disability History. Not a title to trip off the tongue, I have to say, but it's a project to do with the teaching about the history of disability in for local schools, and it's something we advise on. And fairly recently, Neath Talbot Council has begun a blue plaque scheme, and aware that the officer in question might need a bit of help from us and advice, we got in touch and offered to assist where we can, and we've been helping her with researching a building that forms the subject of the first plaque nomination. So it's something where we will continue to do. It's one of those situations where a claim has been made about the history of the building, and we have to check it out, and we're happy to do that because that's something that we're in a position to do. So we're committed to doing that in the longer term, if insofar as we can, and helping Neath Talbot's efforts in that sort of a way.
Any questions or observations?
The observation is to thank Andrew and the team for the work they're doing with schools, because I know it might be frustrating, and I'm talking about Swansea and Neath Talbot, in terms of the slow pace of engagement, but it's worth doing. I think it's important that we carry on offering that service, and it will build up its own momentum, I believe, because looking back to the 1980s now, and things like the Association of History Teachers in Wales, the way that contributed to a revival in the way that history was taught in schools. And I think we need to see the same type of thing. One of the complaints is that there's a focus on a narrow range of topics because there's a lot of resources that schools can buy. And I think the way to combat that is by developing the resources locally and using what we've got available locally. So it's a matter of keeping that on the agenda, and hopefully we will see more usage in future. So I think it fully endorse what the team are doing, Andrew.
Thank you very much. That's very kind. Well, we are committed to carrying on with this. We're aware that a few years ago, it's Katie Millian, my colleague, who first set the service up in 2010. In those days, nobody else was doing it, and the way the curriculum was taught was different. Whereas now, I think, with the changes to the curriculum and the emphasis on Cynefin, there's probably more out there generally, but it's generic, and I think it's the specific that's
the
we can
point,
offer.
exactly.
Yeah. I'd reference here the work done by the Calon Afan project in Port Talbot around the Lords of Avon and the very distinctive history, Welsh history there. It's a fascinating story. It really deserves to be heard, and they put together some fantastic school resources there. It's that sort of thing about the very local area, rather than generic Welsh stuff, which is no good because it's not generic, it's specific. And particularly here, the history of our two authorities and what was going on in medieval times here is very, very different on the Neath Port Talbot side to the Swansea side. And even within Swansea, there's big differences between the north and the south and so on. And they're stories that need to be told, and they will continue to be. So thank you.
And it's also good news that Neath Port Talbot is producing or is initiating their blue pack scheme. So that's excellent. And of course, so much history, wealth of history in Neath and Port Talbot. So we look forward to seeing lots of blue packs throughout that county borough.
Okay, so moving on to the Archives and Records Council survey of visitors. The survey is conducted every 2 years. It used to be every 18 months, but it's every 2 years, and it's always in the last 2 months of the year, which are not great months to be carrying out a survey, I have to say, because people are thinking about Christmas and it's raining, and we get fewer visitors. And if they did it in February or September, then it would be a much wider range of views. But nonetheless, we ran it as everybody else did, and no doubt it was raining for them as well, and just as much close to Christmas. So either which way, we were definitely comparing like with like. We came out fairly well. The overall impressions are marked out of 10. We got on average 9.7, which is pretty good. Richard Burton Archives was above us with 9.8. University of Wales Trinity St David's Archives had 10 out of 10, but then that was based on 4 surveys. So literally, if one of them hadn't liked them very much, they would have gone rocketing down the scale. Ours is based on a few more than that. The lowest in Wales was Gwynedd with 9.2, and in the UK, the worst were the National Records of Scotland with 8.8, and someone really didn't like them by the sound of things. They're obviously subjective. We looked into levels of satisfaction with different aspects of the service they had, including the standard of our paper catalogues, Welsh language provision, appointment system, welcome reception, accessibility, verbal communication, appropriateness of staff advice, and document production. All of those are things that we can directly influence, and it's down to us and the way we do things. And there were high levels of satisfaction with that. There was less satisfaction with our IT equipment. I'm not surprised. How some of those machines are still going is a mystery to me, because a lot of them date back to 2008 when the Civic Centre project began. But obviously, when we move to a start of our brand new machines, and they'll be like greased lightning. So I'm not unduly concerned with that one. There are also a few voices in dissatisfaction with our online catalogue. Once again, I'm not surprised. Using the Archives Hub, it gets you there, but it's really clunky. And obviously I'll be talking about that very shortly, about how we're moving on with that. Out of the respondents, it was a mixture of different people, a broad spectrum of people who had been to archives before, were very regular users of archives, and hadn't been to an archive before at all. 50-50 family history and local history. That's the way of things now. It used to be very, very, very strongly family history, and local history coming a very distant second. But it's much more even these days. And actually, the family historians who are coming in are family historians who are coming in to look at original documents, rather than family historians who are coming in to use the online resources. Basically because people access those at home and don't come into us for that very much anymore. Hearteningly, 56% of people who came in felt that their experience was the same as it had been when they came in before. 22% said it was somewhat improved, and 22% said it was greatly improved. So I was very pleased with that. So it's either the same or better, which is good. So we'll wait and see what they think about it in the next 2 years, by which time we'll be in a completely different place.
Well, actually, that is an interesting point, isn't it? Because the next survey will coincide with the move to Estorva, won't it?
The year after.
Oh, year after.
Yeah.
So, so it'll have a good year for Estorva to have bedded in and people to have come into it. So, especially with things, as you mentioned, the IT equipment and hopefully the online catalogue. So, yeah, it can only get better, I would think. But despite the time of year, it's an excellent result for the service. I mean, 9.7 out of 10 is scoring really highly. So, well done to you and the team again.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
The main thing is that we mark it against its peers, and I think we're doing fairly well against our peers, which is good. Only a brief paragraph about preparations for moving to Estorva. The preparations continue. You'll all have had Tracy McNulty's email about visits. It's not that we don't want people to visit. It's all to do with the well, first of all, what you can see when you're there, which is a building site and a lot of plasterboard. When we were Tracy and I were and Councillor Elliot King were showing around Neath Talbot members. Was it a couple of months ago now? Maybe 3 months ago. There was a whole lot of picture the scene. Up here will be the whatever. And we felt that members of the committee would get an awful lot more out of a later visit when there's no picture of the scene. It's like you can see the carpet, you can see the furniture, you can see what the staircase looks like, and so on. And they are working hard to get it all completed. We're also working hard to get it all completed. I've been saying we're picking the low-hanging fruit. Well, it's the fruit at the top of the tree that we're having to pick at the moment. So we're pulling up the ladders and getting the hooks out to get it all sorted. It's the last few little bits, and then we'll begin a complete trawl of everything to make sure everything is properly boxed, everything is properly barcoded, to make sure we haven't missed something along the way, because those barcodes are going to matter when it all moves. Large roll plans, large flat items. It's all the large, outsized, annoying looking things. We've got some very large roll maps. Are there any questions on the start of I'm actually able to answer?
I don't think there are, Andrew, but yes, I think we'll have to contain our excitement for the grand opening, when there will be something more positive to see, because we can only, if we visited now, it would just be our imagination. And of course, everybody working on the site is focusing on getting it ready, and visits take time to organise and resources. So yes, and we'll have something to see. So yes. And time will pass very quickly in between now and when it opens. So yes, it'll be well worth seeing, I'm sure, when the final day comes.
I wish it wouldn't pass too quickly,
No.
but
Yes,
no,
we have
enough time
Yes.
to do what we need to do. That's
Yeah.
the important thing. Right, onto the online catalogue. We reported we have procured a package called Apexio. We made a trial upload of data to it to check that it would work, and it worked very well. We've always done things on our catalogue in a very standard way, basically because I've done it all, so I know I've done the same thing all the way through, which made it a lot easier. And it says here the final upload of data will take place on the 13th of June. Well, that's this afternoon's little job, and then we'll start work on the public interface. Now, the public interface, the idea is that it will move pretty smoothly from our web page to the catalogue without you thinking you've fallen off a cliff and gone into some completely different piece of the internet. If any of you have had occasion to use Glamorgan Archives catalogue, it'll be very broadly similar in that you move into it without really noticing that you've done so. It'll be a fully bilingual interface, which is an important thing. The Archives Hub isn't bilingual, and that's not as it should be at all. We're hoping it. I mean, I say this because it's gone very, very slowly, but I can't see that there'll be any major reason why it won't be complete and the new catalogue will be available by the next time we foregather for the next meeting. So hopefully I'll be able to say then it is done. I'm saying hopefully lots of times because it has taken far longer than I thought it ever possibly could. So apologies to the committee for the late arrival of our catalogue. I know it's been inconvenient for our users, but it will be a definite improvement. It's very straightforward to use. It'll be better than the old one we used to have, and it'll definitely be easier to use than the Archives Hub.
But it will be accessible in terms of the search engine, will it?
Yes.
From what I've read here.
It will, yes.
Right.
So the benefits, so by the time it's up and running, it will be our main finding aid. The Archives Hub will continue to be there, and all the things that we've uploaded onto it will continue to be there, and we'll continue to put our catalogues on that because we put a lot of work into it, and because it works and it does the trick. Our new catalogue will have a bilingual interface, be easier to use than the old one, and also if you put in a Google search, you will find things that are on the catalogue, which is the important thing, whereas the old one, it didn't work that way. So it's important because people might be Googling something to do with, I don't know, the Knoll Park War Memorial or something like that, and they'll come across obviously pictures of it and the map of it and all the usual things, but they'll also probably come across the fact that we've got a couple of documents to do with it, and they'll do that both through the hub and through our own catalogue. And those are people who probably didn't even know we existed, and they'll get in touch with us and say, how do I get at this, and so on. So it'll be an improvement. Any questions on the catalogues? Okay, thank you. Another update, this time on digital preservation. I think these items will stay as updates on the agenda in the report for the foreseeable future anyway. We reported on the procurement of Preservica as a digital repository on behalf of a Wales-wide consortium for digital preservation. We had formal training in January, which was long, and a colleague of mine, Rebecca, developed, based on the training, a methodology which boils down to 2 sides of A4, which is very nice, which is our little manual for uploading our existing digital archives into this repository. We've rolled out training to all of the staff, and we're all cracking on. We've got a kind of quiet little competition going on to see who can do the most of it. But the reason for this is to make sure that we don't have a situation where only one person does it. It means it's sustainable. Everyone understands the process and knows what they have to do. And they're all kind of enjoying it in a sort of a way. It is oddly addictive, was a comment of one of them yesterday, and I'd agree. I mean, I've done a fair bit as the oral history bits and pieces, and it's quite satisfying when it goes in there. And then, of course, the next part of the process will be to overhaul our strategy regarding digital preservation to ensure that it's not just there for a few little pictures and a few little oral histories, but it's there to serve our councils in a wholesome and sustainable way. Are there any questions for that section?
Well, all I can say, Andrew, is you're still doing work like this, training and devising new ways of doing things, despite everything that's going on. So again, you know, your staff are fantastic. So
Thank you.
yes.
They are. They are a fantastic bunch, and I mean, it's a very positive team spirit at the moment, and it's exactly what we need given what we're trying to do this year, and it's a big year in terms of what we're trying to do. Moving on to staff. Well, you all know this, but it wasn't formally reported in the committee because there was a lag between the end of the reporting quarter and when the committee meeting took place last time round. But I sort of reported again, so it's officially in the report. Emma Laycock was appointed as Assistant County Archivist at the end of March. She was archive trainee many years ago, 2006, 2007. I've known her for years, and she was appointed to the post of archivist here in 2019. And so that basically means that there's a post of archivist vacant. We've been advertising that. We had the application pack through yesterday, and we expect to make an appointment in the next few weeks. So once that is done, we will finally be up to our full complement of staff, which will be very, very pleasing because you know, we've been a member of staff down one way or another since Kim's retirement, and our current staff complement is 6.4 full-time equivalent, and that's running 2 sites and doing all of these things. So we're not going to relax. It means it's going to free us up to do more creative and interesting things once everybody's in place and trained and knows what they're doing. Professional trainings, meetings and training. There have been a number of meetings there, as you can see, a lot of them to do with digital preservation. And I don't know if there are any questions or comments on that, but there they all are. Moving on, annually, it's a requirement of our audit section that the services, fees and charges are approved by the Archives Committee. So Appendix 1 gives you the fees and charges from May this year. Just to comment a little bit on what they've done, because you may be looking at these and you're thinking, well, I can't remember what they were last year. What's he done with them? Has he massively hiked them or anything like that? I haven't massively hiked anything. Some of them have gone up slightly. So, for example, commissioned research individuals, that's the first line, has gone up from £34 to £35. Just to put that into perspective, when I was first here in 1995, the charge hourly was £15 an hour. Now, in terms of Mars bars, that's a lot more Mars bars then than it is now. The important thing is we're trying to make sure that we're able to provide a service that doesn't put people off. If people see that and think, oh no, I can't afford that, I'm not going to engage with them, that's not where we want to be. We want it to be representative. In a similar vein, commissioned research for companies has gone up from £40 to £42, so it's a relatively modest increase. The quick search, that's where it's a sort of up to a quarter of an hour's job, I suppose. That's gone up from £6 to £6.50. Photocopies, printouts stay the same. A scanned image stays the same at £2.75. Microfilm printouts and document copying by post has gone up a massive 5p from 70p to 75p. Certified copies have gone up from £12 to £13.50. That one hadn't changed for quite a while, I think. Publication fees have stayed the same. Broadcast fees have stayed the same. The hereditary freedom certificates have gone up from £57.50 to £60.50, and that's based on the price charged by design print. It doesn't mean that it costs you that amount to register your hereditary freedom. That's a free service. It's just if you want a special certificate to prove it once it's been done. Speaker fee for evening talks has gone up from £30 to the rather odd fee of £31.50. And then the fee for school sessions delivered at the school stays the same. So it's not massive. It goes to, you know, cover the fact that everybody's prices are going up everywhere. And in terms of Mars bars, the whole service costs fewer Mars bars than it would have done a few years ago.
Are there any questions or observations on the fees and charges? No?
Agree those, Chair, formally.
Pardon?
We need to agree those.
Oh, yes. And may I have your committee's agreement to the increase in the fees and charges? Thank you all very much. And when we look at them, they haven't gone up very much, and compared to other professional services, they are very, very similar, aren't they? So yes, and it's a balance between not putting people off, as you rightly say, but nevertheless having to charge to cover your overheads. So yes, good, excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, committee. And finally, we have an oddly slimmed down list of deposits. It's usually about 3 times this size, but for some reason it's fewer this quarter. But there they are.
Is there anything that stands out for you, Andrew, that you'd like to bring the committee's attention to?
One thing that was very interesting was the first one. It's a classic example of some depositors are very sort of diffident about bringing their deposits in. He said, I'm not sure if you'd be interested in this. I've had it around the house for a while, and it's a register of members for Silo Landor, and it goes back to 1810. It's quite rare for chapel records to go back that far, simply because as it's more of a private organisation and the records get handed from one secretary to the next, they often get lost along the way or borrowed or fall to pieces or whatever. So to have this is fantastic. And we've got the bulk of the records from Silo Chapel. It's where my wife's father's family used to go, and in fact, William Williams of Wern, who was one of the councillors here actually, was a founder member of the new chapel and was commemorated a window there. So it's interesting to see his name in there as a young man, and so on. But it's names and addresses and so on of people who put their hands in their pockets and built that thing, and then put their hands in their pockets again and built the new one when the time came. And it covers a period from the days when Landor was a few cottages and the works, up to the days when it was terraced houses and so on. Very pleased to have it. It's in several pieces, and we're going to have it sent away and repaired. So we have it, but it's not going to be available while it's obviously being repaired and rebound.
That sounds an excellent addition to the collection, doesn't it? So, yes, and quite rare and unusual, as you say, to get something like that into archives. So yes, yeah, great. Thank you very much, Andrew. And is there any other business that committee members would like to raise? No, well, thank you very much. That concludes the meeting. So once again, Andrew, thank you on behalf of the committee and all your staff for the good work that you're doing. And we look forward to the next meeting, which is in September, and a further update on all these very interesting issues. So thank you very much indeed. And thank you all for your contribution to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.